Hello and welcome to Realm's Edge Gaming. In this episode I thought what we could do is take a look at Kaiser Ven Brecht and his narrative arc that begins in the Morathi book. The reason why we're doing this is because in the Morathi book we learn about Kaiser Ven Brecht, who is the Lord Veritant of the Anvils of the Helden Hammer, but his story kind of ends part way through book 1. We know that book 2 Teclis is going to be available very soon, and I'm not sure whether the story arc for him will continue in that book or if it will come further along. But in the White Dwarf magazine they have started to do something called the Flashpoint, and what this does is it kind of isolates certain events within the Broken Realms narrative arc and delves into them in a little bit more depth. And in the current White Dwarf, issue 462, we actually have a story about Kaiser Ven Brecht and what happens to him after the narrative events in book 1. So for those of you that didn't manage to get the magazine or haven't picked it up yet, I thought we could talk about what happens and then look towards book 2 Teclis to see if we think he will make an appearance and what the implications of his story actually are. So, without further ado, in the Morathi book, we get introduced to this character, Kaiser Ven Brecht, and he is important to the story because he is the Lord Veritant of the Anvils of the Helden Hammer, and in the book, when Morathi is taking over Anvilgard, they do something so it stops the Stormcasts from being able to actually be zapped back up into the sky by the lightning, and it prevents Sigmar from actually knowing that they have been betrayed and that the city has actually been now taken over as Harkonnen and actually fallen to the Daughters of Cain and Morathi. What happens to Ven Brecht is he gets captured by one of the Corsairs, and he's had all his weapons and armour taken off him, and he's kind of chained to a wall by one of the Corsairs, and you kind of think his story is going to come to an end. Eventually what happens is something actually smashes through the door, killing the guards outside, but not just killing them, stabbing them or anything like that. It's as if like a wild animal's done it. It says that they've been torn open from throat to belly, collapsing, spilling guts through their fingers. So we don't actually know what's done it, because the beast or whatever it is, the monster, kills the Corsairs and then leaves the Lord Veritant to escape. So as he's kind of walking back outside, everything's been destroyed, and the kind of only glimpse that you get of the thing that saved the Lord Veritant is when he actually looks up. Far above, clinging to the spire of a bladed tower, was a figure wreathed in shadow. He could see the creature's eyes, pinpricks of crimson light boring into him. He caught the impression of a pair of bat-like wings unfurling, and there was a sudden rush of air. In an instant the thing was gone, leaving Ven Brecht alone on a dead ship. And I know on the internet there was loads of discussion about, was it Malarian? It says about the shadow. We've got red eyes and bat wings. People thought it could be soul blight, and that kind of ties in with Ven Brecht as well, because there is part of his story that kind of deals with some of his relatives succumbing to the soul blight curse. But then we had the Broken Realms stories, and we know that book 3 is going to be Be'lakor. So I think it's talking about the shadow. It's leaning more towards it being either Be'lakor himself or one of his followers, whatever they might look like now. So Ven Brecht is saved, and the story in the Broken Realms Flashpoint actually picks up from this point. So what we'll do is we'll move across to the White Dwarf, and we'll think about what happens next for Ven Brecht. So this is it, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Flashpoint Broken Realms. And here it is. I think a rather apt title, Lost in Shadows. So it says here, an imprisoned Lord Veritant is released from his bondage by a mysterious benefactor. In this short story by Nick Horth, the beleaguered warrior finds himself on the run from the Shadow Queen's agents, bearing a message of utmost importance to the survival of the God King's empire. So, as we know that the Stormcast haven't been able to alert Sigmar to the fact that they've been betrayed, that Anvilgard has fallen, and that Morathi has betrayed them. So, after escaping from the kind of Corsairs in Harkonnen as it's now known. Ven Brecht runs away, and unfortunately he's actually captured again, once again by more Corsairs. So as he's kind of attacking them kind of in Ulgu, he's very uncertain as to what he's actually seeing. So he actually thinks he's attacking Stormcast. He's really not sure. But it is the Corsairs again, and he's trying to defend himself, but unfortunately to no avail, because going to be outnumbered by them there. But he manages to kind of defend himself as best he can. But as it transpires, yet again something shadowy comes from the heavens above and drags the Corsairs away. Not all of them, but one of them says that it decapitates him and that the kind of head lands on the floor. And then from the shadows, he says that Ven Brecht kind of gets glimpses of like shadowy faces with needle sharp teeth, and they drag some of the Corsairs away into the darkness. So Ven Brecht runs off, carries on running, and he feels like he's being followed or chased by shadowy figures. He can feel the kind of rushing wind above him, like something on wings is chasing after him or following him. And eventually he kind of collapses from exhaustion and isn't really sure where he's going because there's so much kind of shadow, darkness. He feels like the landscape's conspiring against him, and he collapses. And eventually he's woken up by some stormcasts, and he doesn't believe that they're real. He thinks that it's the land kind of mocking him. But it does say here eventually, "What has happened to you, brother?" she said. That's a stormcast, unable entirely to mask her pity and revulsion. "It matters not," Ven Brecht said. "I'm Kaiser Ven Brecht, Lord Veritant of the Anvils of the Heldenhammer, and that matters is the warning I bring. Sigmar's empire is in great danger, and your city of Misthoven above all. Morathi has betrayed us, Anvilgard has fallen." So they finally do get the message that they have been betrayed, that Morathi has taken over Anvilgard, and that they are aware that the Corsairs have very much got the upper hand in this part of the story. So I don't know, that's how it ends. That's how the Ven Brecht story ends, at least. I don't know whether this kind of sets up events for Book 3 for Be'lakor. I don't think Stormcast are a part of Book 2 Teclis, so maybe there's going to be a bit of a pause for the narrative arc of this point, or maybe it will continue. I'm really not sure, but I'd love to get your opinion below. Do you think Sigmar will eventually, put in an appearance? Will it be Be'lakor? Or do you think it'll be on one of the kind of further books? What do you think of the Flashpoint series as well? Do you think it's a good idea for Games Workshop to do this? Or is it, I suppose, a little bit unfair as well? Because if you don't buy the magazines, you kind of do miss out on a part of the narrative. I know in this magazine, and the one previously, there was a lot surrounding Flesh Eater Courts, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and the Lumineth Realm Lords, and it does seem to very much link in with the story of the Book 2 Teclis. If you would like me to kind of cover some of that in another episode, more than happy to do so. If you could leave a comment below or subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so, that'd be fantastic. Are you excited for Book 2 Teclis? I really know that I am. It should be a really good one to find out what happens with the story next. Thanks for joining me once again, and I look forward to speaking with you in the comments.